Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Kopke. I'm a 3D motion design freelancer, and this is my 3D modeling podcast, Ambient 3D Animations. Today we're going to go through all the settings for the cloth surface generator inside of Cinema 4D, so let's go ahead and get started. So here we are inside of Cinema 4D. The first thing that I'm going to do is hold a click on this cube, and I'm going to drop a sphere into the scene. I'm just going to keep it at the default settings. I find it helpful to be able to see the lines of the edges on our object and the polygons, so I like turning on constant shading with lines or garage shading with lines, so I'll go ahead and do that. The hotkey for that is NB, but this is fine for right now, so I'm just going to click there. And I'll hold another click on here because we need a plane. We're going to have this plane fall onto our sphere, so I'll raise it up a little bit. And I'm going to change the width to be 800 by 800 centimeters. Our segments will be 50 by 50. And I'm just increasing this a little bit so that we get a little bit more detail when this falls onto the sphere as some fabric. And we're going to be using this as an example for when we use the cloth surface. So the next step here is I am going to right click on our sphere, go down to simulation tags, and I am going to make this a collider so that this collides into the sphere and you can get those nice cloth deformations. So now we need to make sure that our plane is able to act as cloth. So we right click on it, go down to simulation tags, and add in our handy dandy cloth right here. I'll click on that. Okay, so now when we press play, you'll see some things are happening. And you might be saying, hey Leah, there's some problems here. Like, look at how hard these edges are on here. And this even looks like it might be going through the sphere at some points. It looks kind of weird, but we're going to fix this. And the cloth surface is going to help us do that. So under our options, under our filter, I'd like to change this to have the work plane off because that'll just make it easier to see what we're doing without the work plane there. And I'm also going to hit Control D, that's Command D on a Mac. I'm going to go ahead and change our passes to be 5, and that just helps prevent intersections from happening when we have fast-moving objects colliding into each other. So I'm going to adjust that to be about 5 right there, and we'll start this back at the beginning and press play. I'd like some more frames in here. I'm going to change this from 90 to 300. Now I'd like this cloth to be a little bit bendier, so I'm going to click on the cloth tag and I'm going to change the bendiness from 10 to about 50. There we go. You can see it actually does look quite a bit more bendy now since we adjusted that. I'm going to pause it here where it is. So you could see we have these weird creases happening, and the more we increase the segments, the heavier our scene becomes. So what if we don't want to do that, but we still want this cloth to be looking better than this? Well, that's where the cloth surface comes in helpful. So I'm holding a click here, and I'm going to add in this cloth surface. Now you won't see anything happen initially because what we need to do is drop our plane into the cloth surface. And now you can begin to see some things happening. Let's go through these settings. First of all, we have this setting here, subdivisions. It's set to 1 by default, and you can see that it actually subdivides the polygons here. So if I take this to 0 and we just focus in on this polygon here, it will subdivide it in half this way and subdivide again this way once I crank this up to 1. And then if we crank this up to 2, it'll take these subdivisions and I'll subdivide this one in half. And it'll just continuously do that as many times as we increase this. Now, we probably don't need to have it be that much. I'm going to leave it on 2 for right now. The next thing to be aware of is the factor. So this is rounding it out based on the normals. And we have a whole episode talking about normals. I'm going to turn off the cloth surface here for a moment by clicking that button, because I'd like to talk about the normal direction of this plane. Now I want to make this plane editable, but before I do that, I'm going to have this go back to the beginning. So it's in that default position before I make this editable. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You can hit this button here, or you can use the C hotkey. I'm going to use the C hotkey. Now we have an editable plane. And if I go into this polygons mode, I can go ahead and use my brush selection to select some polygons. And you'll notice something interesting. One side is orange and the other side is purple. The purple side is the back side. The orange side is the front side. The orange side is, each one of these polygons has an axis, actually. Each single point has an axis. So you can see if I click on one single point here, this point has an axis, and this polygon has an axis. And this is saying that this polygon is pointing this way, and this is the normal direction, so it's orange on this side. This is the front side of the mesh. And this can be useful for things like rendering calculations. Redshift uses this, and other things like that. It's also used for calculating the cloth surface. So that's what I just want you to know, is that that is the front side of the mesh, the orange side. And now I'm going to let this fall again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about these settings. So why does this matter, that that is the normal direction? Well, that matters because that's what's being used to calculate, first of all, smoothing out the surface with this factor here. And if I decrease this to 0, you can see that we're being able to see those original edges from our polygons. And if I press Q, you'll see our cage. This is called our cage, our original mesh here. And if I press Q again, you can see the subdivisions. But this factor here is what is smoothing out the subdivisions, and it's doing that based on the normal direction of the polygon. So that's why I'm pointing that out to you right now. So as I increase this, you can see it smooths out. And maybe you'll even see that more if I zoom in here. So factor of 0 looks kind of harsh. And then we smooth that out to 100% and it smooths it out. So that is one way to take care of it. And then you also have this option limit. And we talked about how this has a cage. So if I press Q, that turns off the cloth surface, and our cage is just the object underneath that's being subdivided, basically. And if we press Q again, you'll see our subdivision. So the limit is just preventing this as it's being subdivided from it going back through the cage. So you have that as an option. As it's being smoothed out, it's controlling the direction of the smoothing so that it prevents the new mesh from going through the part that is the cave. That is the cage. And I'm going to turn off the limit because I don't really feel like I need that here. There's this other option, thickness. Now we talked about how things aren't infinitely thin usually, especially fabric. So if we increase this thickness, that increases the thickness of our fabric. So I'll increase it like that. You can see now that this has a thickness. When adding thickness to this surface, it's extruding it in the normal direction. So if I press Q to turn off the cloth surface, you'll see that this is where the surface starts. And then when I press Q again, it's extruding outwards. So that's how the normal direction is affecting the thickness. As far as this bulging option here, I'll go ahead and press Q again so that we could see the original cage of this mesh. And you'll notice that the polygons on the edge, or the points rather on the edge, each point is connected to 2 polygons. However, the points in the center of the fabric are connected to 4 polygons. So the number of polygons determines how much these extrude when you turn on this bulging option. So the points with more polygons actually bulge out more. So if I press this button here, you'll see that the edge is a little bit thinner than the rest. So that's what this is affecting here. And those are all the settings for your cloth surface. So I hope you found that helpful. We had another episode where we actually went through and made a blanket and a pillow, and we talked a little bit about the cloth surface, but now we're actually going through all the settings. So I hope you found that helpful. You can check out this episode here. I'll leave a link to it. If you found this helpful, please leave me a like. If you'd like to be notified when more episodes like this come out, please hit subscribe and ring the bell. And thank you so much for being here. And I hope to see you here next time.